Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host, Bill Whittle, and Stratosphere Studio. My bad. Too many Stratospheres for one man to keep track of. And it is the 24th of April, 2023. Hope everybody's doing well. I have to keep this one relatively brief tonight. I got to be out of here a little before 8, so we're starting right a little after 6. But the good news is I don't have a whole lot of stuff to talk about, so I can get to some questions at last. The one thing just kind of flew into my head here, which is just as prone to fly out again. As we've mentioned many, many times, for those of you watching the show on YouTube, in its recorded form, we do a live show on Twitch, and we run old TV show intros, and our kind of our show cue music for Stratosphere Lounge is I Know a Place with Petula Clark, and for Stratosphere Studio, it's the opening to Star Trek. So, Airtechie wants to know if I'm wearing Gorn skin boots. I am. I'm having them done right now. So here's the thing. I was just watching the Star Trek opening again from the original series, the real one, and I don't know if I think it was probably Doomcock who first mentioned this, because it never occurred to me. But once J.J. Abrams got a hold of Star Trek, and they were doing this before then too, well before then. In fact, they were doing this from the Star Trek the Motion Picture, and it's really a shame. And what they did was starting in Star Trek the Motion Picture, when the Enterprise went into warp, it did that kind of thing, which looks kind of cool, I guess. Where the light gets stretched out, or whatever. I guess that's going really fast. But what I found was I really miss the fact that when you've got this wormhole for the Enterprise, you can't tell how fast anything's going in a wormhole. You just know it's going fast. You just know. No one's ever seen speed in a wormhole. That's the thing I most liked about Star Trek was the starfield. In fact, when I first started doing computer programming, that's the first thing I tried to reproduce on the Apple IIe was just that starfield effect. I love it. I love it. And many times in that show, they have like a standard speed, warp 2 or warp 3 or something. And then when they had to haul butt, you'd see the thing moving faster, but you had a sense of speed. And you also had a sense that the Enterprise doesn't do anything magic so much as it just plain chucks in some throttle, let's give her a little more gas, and there you go. It's really a shame. So everybody's talking about Tucker Carlson, so I don't suppose there's much point in talking about Star Trek or any of the other stuff at this point. So we just started the show, and I just heard the news about 15 minutes ago, that Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox. Somebody in the comments has also said Dan Bongino's gone too. I don't know what Fox News has left, I mean, I don't know. There's some rumors about it had something to do with his reporting on January 6th. But I'll tell you what, if it sounds to me in this life where, I no longer feel like paranoia is a mental defect. It's more of a survival strategy kind of thing. This sounds like silencing somebody, because you've got to really want to shut them up. He's their entire network. I just saw fragments that basically said, he's $500 million to Fox News. He's the only thing there that people watch besides Gutfeld. And if it's because he's talking about things like January 6th, Tucker Carlson, what is Tucker Carlson going to do? Is he going to say something that's going to offend the trans community? I mean, this apparently came from Rupert Murdoch himself. And so, I don't trust anybody anymore who's on that billionaire level. I just don't. I I with Elon I trust but verify, but the rest of them I don't think they're good people. And it seems to me more and more that there's more and more evidence, not just speculation or fever dreams or anything, but evidence that all these guys are hanging out together, and all they do now is just figure out a way to kind of control, everybody. And I cannot think of a single reason why you would fire Tucker Carlson unless Tucker Carlson is saying something that is worth losing $500 million for. And by the way, it's not just Tucker Carlson and the value of Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson leaving Fox means there's no reason to watch Fox at all, period. So Fox News, which once was this bastion of conservatism with, Beck and all these guys, now it's just nothing. Nothing. Megyn Kelly's gone, all of them. They're just gone. So I don't know what this is about, and I don't much like the feel of it. In YouTube, 1968 Camaro SS says Tucker could have a podcast at least as successful as Joe Rogan's. He could. And I think this is probably, they lost $1 billion, did they? That's what Drizzle Tech says. Okay. Yeah, Murdoch could possibly be part of the swamp. I think it's possible that he's not part of the swamp. At this point, I'm just assuming everybody's in. So Tucker is not going to be silent. And the more they try to knock these people off, I don't think these dinosaurs realize the world we live in now. I really don't think they realize it. The biggest show in the world right now, in my opinion, in terms of reach, is the Joe Rogan podcast. And Tucker can go out there and they tried to get rid of James O'Keefe and so I don't care about the old company. I'm not even going to mention his name anymore. Now I watch him on OMG, O'Keefe Media Group. So this idea that you can fire these people and have them stop talking about this, that's just nuts. They can fire him and stop paying him. Well, they probably have to pay him. I mean, the contract to contract. But they're not going to shut him up. It's not like the old days where you got kicked off of TV and you lost your voice. He's going to have as many, if not more, people watching him on YouTube, and he'll probably do a membership thing or something like that, and all the rest of it. I just, it just seems like a full court press. So, okay. That really was quite a shock, to be perfectly honest with you. It really was. You said, Tucker said a lot about the lies in media Friday. And also, and I think this is important, Tucker and Elon Musk started kind of a little bonding thing and started talking about some of the things that were really in the guts of Twitter. I think I really think that they know that there's stuff that Elon has internally in Twitter. Well, we already know this. We know Twitter basically put the kibosh on the Hunter laptop story and banned President of the United States and all the rest of it, So I don't know. Tucker, Elon Musk would be a good friend to have. Tiki Rocket says Tucker started going after the Central Uniparty. That's a great term. That's really what it is. It's the Central Uniparty. And so, I don't know. But it was surprising news and it happened just a short time ago. So there we go. Now, somebody asked whether or not I'd be putting in an offer for Tucker to be a regular contributor here at BillWhittle.com. And to be honest with you, our schedule's kind of full. I will send an email and offer him, a couple $100 to sit in on Right Angle or something if one of us is out. So he'll probably take that, I would imagine. He'll agree to that on account of him being out of work and all. But honestly, okay, here it comes. We just sailed deeper into this mist, and and we will see what happens. So I'll tell you what. Um, every time I worry about these behind the scenes forces, there's certainly some forces. I mean, Klaus Schwab, there's no denying Klaus Schwab or Fauci or the rest of these guys. Every time I think about them, and I think, my God, these people have so much power and so much information, so much money, and they're so brilliant and they control the world. I realize, it's not been my experience. Has been that they're not bright. Let me rephrase that. They're certainly not wise. I've met a couple billionaires, and I thought, on most levels, especially when it dealt with human interaction, it's they've always struck me as being like children. Like their view of the world and how things work is childlike. And I mentioned how the one billionaire I used to work for called me at 1 a.m. and asked me about the formula that I use for the firewalls. What formula is that? You do 4 beats. Each beat is 4.5 minutes. You follow that by a 30-second break, and then you come up and you do 2 pieces of data, and then and broke it all down and all the rest of it. And I was just sitting there like, well, okay. It's interesting to me that there's a pattern there, but I can certainly tell you there's no intentional pattern there. I don't have a formula. I just plain thank you very much, Spectre. I just write it. And he was the kind of guy who does data analysis, and he just took the firewalls and the afterburners, and mostly afterburners, and just basically said, okay, then here are the things you do, and this is why your stuff is doing really well. So now, if you could just confirm that this is the actual recipe, then we can apply that recipe to everybody else, and then all those videos would do well too. And I just found that to be so astonishingly out of touch. So, I've not seen anything or anyone that scares me because of their intellect. I've seen plenty of people that scare me because of the money they have and the power and the political control and all the rest of it and the intimidation. But I've never, and I mean never, in the almost damn near 20 years I've been doing this in one form or another, I keep waiting for, the progressive Goliath, the big deep thinker to come out of the crowd, and then I'm like, oh man, I hope I'm ready for this. And it's like, after you wait for this for 15, 20 years, it's kind of like, no, the guy's not there. He's just not. He's not there. So anyway, that's the Tucker Carlson things. Hopefully, got that out of the way. Just real quick, back to the Enterprise thing. That sense of motion was what gave it a sense of reality, and the Enterprise does not go swirling and doing spiral dives with all the phasers firing and flies out of there like a cartoon Viper. It's a ship. They didn't have the technology to do it, and I guess they didn't even have the inclination. That's what makes Star Trek so good. That ship going by looks like a ship. Everybody wants their cake and they want to eat it too, right? Oh, yeah, Enterprise is big and beautiful, and but we really like the action in Star Wars and all the dogfighting and stuff. And so then you see dogfighting Enterprise, like Axanar, to my dismay. It's like, guys, these are ships. These are ships. So anyway, there's that. Now, I also, just as a completely side note, I got an email today from somebody saying, all right, I'm getting a little tired. Remember, getting a little tired of this. I've been waiting for these Stratosphere Lounge shows, and you haven't done one since end of January. And I said, well, what now? I have noticed that I have a real bad. I have a mental tendency that's gotten me into trouble before. And I think it's getting a little worse. And what it is that I just file so much information that I glance at something and I'll file it. And then it stays in my head like it's true. And most of the things that I put in my head, I try to make sure are true. But sometimes I just grab something and I'll just lock it into the head and, okay, it's true. And somehow or another, when I started posting the videos back in early February, I realized that somehow in my head, I got it in my head that we don't post Stratosphere Lounge shows to the website. Maybe because I didn't see any at the time or something. We don't do it, so I didn't do it. And in my head, every time I came back to it, it'd be like, Stratosphere Lounge? No, we don't post the Stratosphere Lounge show on the website. And we don't post it on SoundCloud. I just upload it to YouTube, and that's how people find it. Well, somebody said, getting a little tired of waiting 3-4 months without a Stratosphere Lounge show. And I just went back and looked at the website, and I just thought, well, how about that? So, yet another assumption. This kind of thing, it's like, I'll assume that the show will be seeing, I'll assume that a show is at 8 o'clock. I'll just glance at something and said, okay, it's 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. Not one of these shows, a show I'd go to or something with Natasha. Okay, so 8 o'clock on Tuesday night, that's when the show starts. And we'd show up at 8 o'clock and we find out the show started at 6:30. And it's like, what did you do? Did you forget the time? It's like, I didn't forget the time. I remembered an incorrect time. And this was one of those times where I just stuffed something and just like taken care of. Done. Don't have to spend any more time on it. Anyway, I've got 2 of the missing 9 episodes up. I'm working on getting them together. It takes about half an hour, 45 minutes to post one with all the thumbnails and SoundCloud and all the rest of it. So I'm working to catch up, but I will obviously be doing that from now on. Speaking of Stratosphere Lounge, I will not be here on Thursday, and I will not be here next Monday. I will be on a road call. Yes, Clay, we definitely need to do that. Perhaps tomorrow or Wednesday, perhaps. So here's the thing. I'm going on Wednesday night. I'm taking the red eye out of here. And I arrive in Orlando, Florida at about 5:15 in the morning. My friend Steve Stipp's going to pick me up at the airport. Then we're going to drive up and see my other friend Fritz. Both of these guys I've known since I was 10, so that's 22 years now. And we'll spend the first night, that'd be Thursday night, in Georgia. Then Friday, we're going to leave Fritz's house. We're going to head over to North Carolina, pick up Veltrick. And from North Carolina, we're going to drive our butts out to Dayton, frickin' Ohio. So we'll be in Dayton on Friday night, probably get in late. Saturday, we'll be at the Air Force Museum all day. And Saturday night, we're staying in town as well. So hopefully, anybody who can make it there, we can all kind of go out, find some place cool, and we'll all just go out to dinner together and have a big old party. So that'll be fun. Sunday, we drive back from Dayton to North Carolina, drop Phil off, back to Georgia again, spend Sunday night there. And then on Monday, we drive back from Georgia to Orlando, and I'm out of there at 7:30 on a 7:30 flight on Monday night, which gets me back here for Right Angles on Tuesday morning, so don't have to miss any Right Angles. So that's going to be fun, and I'm going to record it, and I'm going to try to post just a couple moments of it, but I'll probably just do a big old edit when I get back and stuff. So that'll be a lot of fun, and I'll try and do an update every day. I think obviously that should be pretty easy to do. I'll try and do it at least on Facebook, and who knows, maybe we'll stream something live. But I'm looking forward to seeing anybody who can make it on Saturday at the United States Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. Comfortably Numb says, I despise Orlando Airport. I've flown into Orlando a few times, and if you really despise Orlando, you really need to come to LAX. That is an unpleasant experience. Anyway, let's just tell you about one other thing, just because of the comedy value. And then we'll take some questions. Like I said, I'm going to have to book kind of early tonight. Before I do that, and I should have had this prepared, but I didn't. So just give me 1 second, por favor. I got a question about, I need to poll the audience on on something for Last Men in the Moon here. Give me 1 second, please. This won't take too long. I know what I'm doing. So it's a I don't want to call this. It's a rules problem. And what I mean by that is you're setting up the rules for this universe, and I've come to a bit of a roadblock here. So give me a second to find this thing. I'll show you what I'm going with this thing. It's a serious issue. I need to get this resolved, and I'd like to just get some feedback on it. So let's see here. You, come on. I have obviously got mixed feelings about this, or else I wouldn't be talking about it. All right, you can go right there. Will you go there, please? Sorry about the. Yeah, that's good. And then I need to find one more. So it's got to do with it's actually is a big deal, which is why I really want to talk to you guys about it. I need to find this second image. It's got to do with what are the rules for this Last Men in the Moon series, and I'll be a lot clearer in a minute here once I just find this other thing, if I can. I'm sure I can. That's not what I had in mind, but this will. No, that's not quite it. So here's what I'm talking about with the rules. Once you set up the rules, you have to live by the rules. This is why franchises die, is because they set up the rules. The rules are internally consistent. They play by the rules. You create a consistent universe that everybody can identify with, and then over time, in come these extremely untalented writers who either don't know or don't like the franchise, and they end up just rewriting some fundamental rules of the universe because they're too lazy to know what they're talking about. I'm going to find this one more here. And so when you establish those rules, you kind of stuck with them. And now we're getting close. This will work too. And so I really wanted to get your guys' take on this thing here. Hang on a second. I need to grab this one more, and then we'll see. Should have these ready. So it's got to do with the. It's got to do with the look. There you go. I'll just start with this one just because it's so striking. And I'll give you the pros and the cons. The pros of what I want to do really opens it up a lot. It really opens up a lot of things in a lot of ways. The cons are it takes a little bit of the realism or semi-realism out. So you saw the Mercury suit, which I thought looked really, really good. I got the pictures now. So what I thought is you've got these four guys up there, and they have something. They're not going to call it a 3D printer, but they've got something that you can manufacture things with. They just chuck lunar regolith in there, and it makes whatever parts they want to. And I thought that, you'd start off with these guys, and you'd see the moon rover, like the Apollo moon rover. And then they've got a dome or pressurized area or something. And this would not be something you'd lead with. This would be something you'd be downstream. But one of them, let's say one of these guys says, yeah, we all have our hobbies up here, and you got to do something to pass the time. So I just like fiddling with cars. I just always like fooling with cars. I rotted out a lot of cars when I was younger, and tuned them up and souped them up and stuff. So I've been working on a new moon buggy. You guys want to see it? Now I've got three different choices here. So he goes into this dark hangar, and here's the thing. I got three different choices. Goes into this hangar. He says, "Yeah, okay, here. Let me show you what I've been working on. This is what they built on the moon. This is really important. It's what they built on the moon." He's like, "Yeah, just kind of fooling around with it." Now I'll put rocket engines under there. I won't make it anti-gravity. I don't want to push this too much. But it's like, yeah, I've been up here for 20 years, so I've been working on this thing a little bit every day. And you know what the hardest part about building this thing was? It was painting it. That was the thing. They had to make a special. They had to get a special supply thing for us just to get that candy apple red. And they were not happy about that at all. But, we just like to do it. Now, I'll show you two more examples just so you can see. They're getting progressively, this one's lower tech, but it's got the vibe. Right, and like I said, I'll put rockets there, so it's not going to be flying anti-gravity thing. And then you could go all the way to this, because you'll never see this in the colonies on account of it's just a little bit too far out there. Yeah, I had a bike back, I had a motorcycle. I used to work on it a lot. And so we'll put a couple rocket engines underneath there, right? Just to give it kind of a look, and put some thrusters on there and that kind of thing. So here's the question. If you do this, you lose that a bit of the sense of realism. You lose a bit of the sense of like the loneliness and the isolation and all the rest of it. So you definitely lose something by doing it. But what you gain from it is this. I really like the idea that this is what guys from 1963, 64, 66, 66, this is what guys from 1966 could have built on their spare time on a moon base, just from spare parts. I really like that a lot. And I like the idea of them zipping over the moon, hauling ass in a candy apple red, souped up, fuel injected Stingray. And I know the 413 always wins, but I don't care. The fuel injected Stingray is just awesome. And so I think I want to do. I know I want to do it. But now the question is, now you've really broken this thing open, right? Now you've done something. You've set the rules. Eric Blake, I swear to God, he's just beat me to it, because when they get in this thing, they're going to have a checklist, right? When they're getting ready to launch this thing for the first time, just go out, take a little spin, a couple 100 miles, no big deal. And you got all these, devices on the panel, and I'm going to write this checklist, and I'm going to have everything just really blocked out. And they're going to say this, and okay, lights, yes, seatbelt secure, yes, right, so on. And then one of the checklist items is going to be atomic power, and then the other guy's going to go speed. No, it's atomic power, atomic batteries, and he'll check it full power, and then the next line will be turbines, speed, and we'll just do the whole Batman checkout kind of thing. And so I think Air Techie says the second one is more of a 50s, 80s hot rod vibe. I think the first one looks. I think the first one looks over. That's too difficult to make. It's too perfect. And this is 2-star Citizen. So something like this. And I could probably just slam one together, just get a thing like that. Now, somebody said you don't need to be aerodynamic on the moon, and this is the kind of thing. This is the kind of thing I want to kind of just constantly nudge in here. This is the whole purpose of wanting to do this. So they'll either be taking questions from the Earth, or somebody said, so some people saw the car, and they said, you don't need streamlining on the moon. There's no air here. And the guy's going to go, wow, thanks for the clue, Sherlock. I had no idea that there was no air on the moon. All right, so, why did you put all this streamlining on there? The guy says, because it looks cool. What's the point of building something that's ugly? I mean, the only reason I'm doing this is for fun. So if I'm going to do it, I want it to look cool. And I think this thing looks pretty boss. Turbines make no sense in a vacuum, correct, but the turbines on the closed-loop nuclear power source could have a meaning in a vacuum, you see. I just really like the idea of these guys just hauling ass over the moon in a red Camaro, red Stingray. I just love it, and I love the idea of them piping Beach Boys music in through their helmets, and I especially like the idea of being in the car, hearing the Beach Boys, and then being outside the car and just watching the thing. Dead silence. I'm going to do the Russians too with that one-person lunar lander. That's how they're going to get around. They're going to fly their lunar lander everywhere, and they're constantly going to be coming by this Russian guy. He's going to be constantly coming by for borrow some sugar, or he's just out there in the socialist space station, and everything just sucks, and he's not real happy about it, So anyway. I'd just like to see just a general consensus, because you guys are kind of the test audience. You're the ones who've been following this whole way. Pet Sounds is a great album. Caledon Zockley, absolutely, yes. So, and obviously I was inspired a little bit by Elon Musk doing that with the Roadster, but it seems to me, we'll find a design, don't worry about that. The question is the idea. Is it worth doing? I kind of think it is. So I'll just take a yes or a no I'll just poll the audience here for those of you who are logged in. Yes means we do it. No means no. It's going to break it open too much and stuff. I love the idea of these guys being in silver Mercury suits, riding like jet bikes, on the moon. I just think that's really, really, really cool. Yes, we're getting yeses. Most people seem to like it. Yes. Not loving the impossible vibe. Okay, there's a good. We're not getting everything exactly. Social space station sounds sad. It is. It's very sad. Yes, please. Okay, so it's a pretty big win for the yeses. Okay, because once you do this, then you can do all kinds of other things. Right? You can do all kinds of other things. I just love it. I love it. And I especially like the idea of, thank you very much for that. FN Geek AZ said, honestly, Bill, it's your show. It is my show, but I'm doing this to, generate new members, and I want people to, well, it's kind of our show, really. We talked about it so much. You're getting so much feedback. So Dave Big Booty says the Russian equipment needs to look clunky and ugly. It is. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm giving a little thought to the Soviet guy, too. I want the Russian stuff to be barely functional junk. Kind of like their submarines. And there's been some discussion about these beautiful Russian cosmonaut women. That's not a bad idea either. But I want their stuff to be junk, because I just finished, I did my favorite episode. It was episode 9 of the Cold War, called Cloak and Daggers. The whole thing's about submarines. It's like the history of nuclear submarines. It's the Corona satellite program. It's the SR-71, and it's Project Azorian. I love it. And I saw a 90-minute cut of it, and over the space of 5 or 6 sessions, I did 253 notes in a 90-minute show. It was just It just wasn't working. So I said I'd like to see the second cut, and then they gave me a look at the second cut, and I don't know what they did. I don't know if they got a new guy in or whatever, or something. All of a sudden, I'm seeing this footage. Like, here's all this footage of USS Triton. I didn't even know this stuff existed. It's fantastic. I keep making. I don't want to make promises. I can just tell you what I want to do, but this stuff's beyond my control. But I am going to ask them if they could put up episode 9 on YouTube, just as a way to just kind of tickle interest to get people back to it. By the way, unless I've really missed something, I believe they've taken down the What We Saw stuff. They didn't call it What We Saw. They Did We Go to the Moon? They put all 4 episodes up for a little period. I went to link it to show to somebody. I couldn't find it. So I suspect what happens is they put it up to generate the links to the Cold War, and then after the traffic just started to die off, I think they took it back down again, which was disappointing. But again, it's their stuff. Monkey Training for a super chat says, "This all sounds great, but maybe don't be too heavy on the nose. Maybe the Americans have all the cool stuff. Russians have a stronger sense of being." Well, this is because they get to finish. The Russians are going to have a stoic kind of sadness. And this is where I'm going with this. The Russian cosmonauts are going to be actually extremely sympathetic, very sympathetic. We're going to really like them. It's just that we're going to feel sorry for them because they're stuck with this communist system. I really think that's a really good way to go. It's like these poor bastards deserve better than this junk. So I'm glad about you guys liking the sports car thing, because that means we can open up, do all kinds of things. So what these guys do, they got nothing else to do. They're engineers. They're all freaking 1950s American public school graduates. They just build things, and they build cool things. So it gives a chance to really kind of get to that. Well, why did you go to this trouble? Paint it red and all. Because it looks cool. Why would you do it if it's why build something ugly? What's the point? So anyway, that's good. I'm glad to see the response here. Marusha Dark for $20. Thank you, Marusha. Recently caught an episode of The Jetsons. The entire premise was that women can't drive or do technical stuff, and their places in the kitchen cooking for their husbands. So much for the virtuous 1960s. Wouldn't fly today. No, wouldn't fly today. But I'm not sure I'd like to travel around in skies with, flying cars filled with chicks. Anyway, that stuff is great. Now, there are dune buggies, kind of cool looking dune buggies. Maybe that's what they'll do with the rover. But the question is can we break out of that? Here's just a tiny little mold. Yeah, it's starting to feel like the Russian base will be kind of where these super hot Russian cosmonaut chicks are. And who is it? Eric Blake says the American men are showing off their sexy moon cars to the Russian ladies. Yeah, that actually works for me. That actually works for me really, really well. Really well. Just kind of, oh hey, yeah, we're just in the neighborhood. Thought we'd stop by, wave, say hi. Meep meep. Okay. Marusha, are you saying there are no forum questions today? Or are you telling me don't do forum questions today? So anyway, that's that. Now, I mentioned in the Facebook post saying we're going to have a show here tonight. I mentioned I'd talk about aircraft carriers, and so I thought I would do that real quick. There are none this week. My God, that's like getting news like your tests have come back, Bill, and you're negative for bowel cancer or something. Don't have to worry about disappointing people for not doing questions. That's great. So here's the thing about the aircraft carrier. So we're switching gears now, and thank you very much for your thank you very much for the feedback on this, and it was certainly the answer I was hoping for. But if everybody said no, this is really just not going to work, no, wouldn't have done it. So so just for giggles here. By the way, looking more refreshed today. Keep it up, Semper Fi. Thank you, Monk. Yeah, Thursday I was just plain out of elastic. I was not a happy camper, and I was just exhausted. And I'm definitely doing a little better. One of the things that's been helping me is I've been getting into DCS at last. I had, from the olden days, I had a pretty decent stick and throttle and stuff. So, and DCS is free. You just bought the F-18 module. And so I've been working on it, been basically just training, practicing for about 3 weeks. And I didn't want to go and contact other players until I could do it without looking like a complete doofus. And so the three skills I've been working on are carrier landings, hitting the tanker, meaning catching the basket, not actually flying into the tanker. I've done that before. And then, and finally, just, guns, basic flight maneuvers, killing other guys with guns. And so I haven't done any videos yet, but I'm going to. On previous flight sims, which are nowhere near as the fidelity of DCS, I was able to land on carriers, and to the degree, and I've spent 10, 20,000 hours on flight sims. Yes, I did hear that Don Lemon also got fired. Maybe they can start a show together. Oh man, that's so cool. AOC crewed 2 aircraft carriers, both oil burners. Anyway, so here's the story about the aircraft carriers. So I've done enough landing on aircraft carriers in previous sims, previous to DCS, which would have been, I probably stopped doing this around 2012 or there's something like that. Anyway, I got invited down to Miramar around 2014, 15. A guy, pilot named Amish asked me to go down there and went with the sharpshooters, Marine Training Squadron. They put me in the F-18 simulator. I'm not going to repeat that story, which I've told a million times, but I was able to get bolter, and third and fourth wire, which I was pretty proud of. So, as far as the carriers go, I cracked out the DCS about 3 weeks ago and just managed to just slam it on the deck. Didn't explode. Once or twice I thought, yeah, I could probably get over the fantail here. I'm definitely low, and they waved me off, but I'll probably just give it a little bit of boom. I have run into the Grim Reaper's channel, Scrappy, and I don't ever like talking ill of people, but I just can't bear them. I just can't. I can't bear the hello value viewers thing, and I also don't like the fact that they just got every different kind of aircraft. They just don't take it seriously enough for me. That's just my personal opinion. Anyway. So I was getting to feel like, I was getting to the point where I was just knocking out these landings, just bam, 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 just getting them. I knew they weren't pretty, but I wasn't crashing. I was catching the wire every time. And then I finally talked to some guys at a virtual squadron, and they said, here's Breakers. Here's a mission that you should download. It's simple. Just download it, chuck it in the missions folder. And it's so a case 1 carrier landing is where there's clear weather, and case 1 is there's really no talking, it's lip sealed kind of thing. So case 1 carrier landing is the jet will come in along the same course as the carrier. How do I do this? Carrier, jet, right? And it'll go screaming past the carrier. I thought it was at 1,000 feet. Growling Sidewinder is great. So the jet goes screaming past the carrier. I thought at 1,000 feet, 350 knots. Goes past the superstructure, past the bow, depending on how weak you are. A really Sierra Hotel break happens so that you never see the top of the airplane, just the belly as it goes around. So I thought it was 1,000 feet, 350 knots, and I would do that, and then I'd start my turn. It's a 3G turn. You really have to really yank on that thing to slow down, put out the air brake. You're coming out of the brake, and you drop your landing gear, and you drop your flaps. And then there's a period where you have to wrestle with this thing because you're taking the AOA from essentially 0 degrees to about 8 degrees AOA. And once the Hornet is at an angle like that, then basically you don't point the nose up or down. You just leave the Hornet like that. And if you're low, you add power, and if you're high, you just reduce power. And you keep that thing right in the middle of the AOA indicator, and you just kind of throttle that baby onto the deck. And I was doing that, like just knocking them out. I'm starting to feel like, yeah, all right, I'm getting pretty good at this. So then I tried Bankers. Yeah, Bankers Case 1. So this mission is designed to rate you at 7 or 8, probably more like 12 or 13 different points on the pattern. So I'm feeling like, king of the world. I'll show this banker guy, and I go blowing through there, and I do the brake, and I look up, and it's like high on the brake, very high on the brake. What? And then I'm rolling out of the brake. It's like very high on the second part of the brake, 960 feet. Well, you're supposed to be at 800 feet. Okay. And then I'm doing the downwind, and it's like slow, too far away from the carrier, and then I'm getting ready to get this thing configured for change the AOA, and I've got all my hands full, and all of a sudden it says minus 10 points because you were too long on the downwind. You got to turn sooner next time. Okay, start the turn, and I'm dipping here, and then next thing you know, it's I will get that. Don't let me forget it, Monk. And I'm like, it's like 800 feet when I'm at the 90-degree mark, and 900 feet when I'm over the wake, and this thing's just spitting all this stuff back at me, bam, 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 and then I finally come around, and I'm thinking, oh well, I've just done this so many times, and just getting bombarded. So the perfect score on Bankers is a 75. And I think I got a 7. And I'm looking at this. It's like high on the brake, high on the coming out of the brake, too far, too fast, high on this, low on this, just bam, 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 bam. Didn't turn in time, too long in the groove, all of this other stuff. And I thought, this is just impossible. So I just tried it again. And every time I tried it, I began to realize the tolerances here, are so tight. And I've got an instrument rating in the real world, but this is insane. This jet the thing will just go up at, 7,000-8,000 feet per minute. And so I said, okay, well, what is it looking for? So then I decided to read the manual, right? So I said, okay, so it's not 1,000 feet on the carrier, over the carrier. It's 800 feet, 350 knots. So I thought, well, that's the easiest points I'm going to get, right? All of this turn and making sure you don't descend in this incredibly steep bank and stuff. So at least load up on your initial points. You can fly at 800 level at 800 feet and 350 knots. You can do that easily. So I did that, and then I'd start the brake, and then I'm just ballooning up, and it's like all these X's. And I'm okay. Well, I'm geared down and on the hook, flaps down and all this other stuff. And it's like, oh, too late. You didn't turn in time. Too late. It's like, oh, for the love of God, you're too high over the 90. You're too low over the wake. You overturned the thing. You're too low on approach. You waved off, and I put a post up on this virtual squadron that I joined. I said, well, I tried the Bankers mission. I used to feel like a happy-go-lucky virtual aviator. And now I just want to walk to the front of the deck and just jump off and wait for the propellers to come. I feel like a. It's not possible to do this. But this is why DCS is so relaxing for me, and Natasha's backing me all the way on this. You can see how much good it's doing me. It's exceedingly difficult, and I need exceedingly difficult things to do to relax. That's a strange thing to say, but basically that's it. I just need difficult things to do. So I started looking at, it's like I tried it again and again and again and again and again. I could not figure out what the hell they're trying to do. Then finally, I just said, this is not hard, man. Don't worry about anything else. All this thing is judging you on is your altitudes. What's your altitude? 800 feet when you're abeam the carrier on the upwind leg, yes. 800 feet on the brake, yes. 800 feet through the top of the brake, yes. 800 feet coming out of the brake, yes. Then you've got a very short period of time when you got to get from 800 feet down to 600 feet. 600 feet, you start your turn. You need to be at about 450 when you cross the 90. You got to be at about 370 when you cross the wake. Just hit those altitudes. And then I just wouldn't give up, And I'm getting to 17s, and I did, a 6, and then wave off, and then I did 20, and so on. Finally got it up to a 42, and the guys in the squadron said the best they usually do is about a 50. So one of the reasons I did was tell the story, because I like telling the story. And the other reason is because muscle memory is a fascinating thing to me. It's fascinating. When I was learning to ride a bike, everybody who ever rode a bike had the same experience. I didn't have the training wheels. I just got out there, my Aunt Marty's backyard on a little driveway, and I'd never ridden a bike before, so I start and I go a foot, and then I fall down, and then I go another foot, and I fall down. I go another foot, and I fall down, and then I go 3 feet, and then I fall down, and then I fall down after a foot again, and you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. And then all of a sudden, it goes from being impossible to being automatic, like that. Had the exact same experience hovering a helicopter. Impossible for 8 hours. It's impossible. It cannot be done by humans. I don't know how this guy's doing it. He's probably using a computer, cheating somehow. It's impossible. And then suddenly it's automatic, and you never forget it. So now I was sitting there, spent, 4 hours on this thing at least today. And I'm sitting there going, okay, can you keep 800 feet abeam on the prior to the brake? Yes. All right. So now all you're going to do, clown, is you're just going to make sure that you keep the brake at 800 feet, within 30, 40 feet of 800 feet. Roll it into the turn, start G'ing back the jet, and then if you're low, kick the right rudder hard. If you're high, kick the left rudder hard, and just keep it at around 800. So next thing you know, I got the upwind nailed, and I got the first part of the brake nailed. And then after another 10 tries, I got the first part of the brake nailed, the second part of the brake nailed. Then the descent is actually kind of close. I'm still all over the place trying to retrim this thing, and it's like, my God, I got to start the turn now. I'm not even trimmed. 450 to 500 feet here, 370 feet there. And just as I was finishing up today, it's like, I'm hitting those targets. And then I started getting 35s, 40s, 47 was the best I did. And then I just kind of walked away and said, all right, then. All right. It took me 4 whole hours to get the hang of this. But the reason I did it, even though it was so frustrating, was because I knew I wanted to do it right. And I had a bunch of bad habits, and I had to break them. So I just had to break them. The second thing that was exceedingly difficult was the air-to-air refueling. Hornet has a probe that comes out of the nose, and when I didn't read any of the instructions or see any of the videos. How hard can it be, right? I mean, ha ha ha. So for a Navy aircraft, they use the Drogan probe and basket. So there's this high drag basket, and then there's a probe, and you got to fly the probe into the basket. Air Force guys, they just fly beneath the jet, and the tanker guys steer the boom and refuel them that way. But the Navy thing is a lot harder. So I'm behind this guy, and I'm doing all this, and I'm watching the basket, just watching the basket. Basket's over here, and I'm thinking the basket comes through the cockpit, and then the basket comes through the cockpit. I got it for sure this time. Basket goes here. It's like, oh, come on. And then I'm just doing all this, and every time just getting further and further and further and further out of the way, further and further and further out of control. All these oscillations are increasing. I'm starting to get really, really frustrated. And then I finally do what I should have done in the first place, which is see a video on it, and then this guy's saying, if you're having problems with this, I guarantee you it's because you're chasing the basket. I said, I am chasing the basket. That's all I'm doing. What am I supposed to do? Look up at the top of the refueling pod where the hose comes down. Don't look at the basket. Look at this because this point is stationary, and then fly the basket in using your peripheral vision. It's like, well, it's challenging. Main thing I was doing was I kept getting the basket way too far to the right because I thought that probe extended out a lot further than it practically. It's practically right on the nose, right just in here on the HUD. So sure enough, I did what the guy said, hit the basket the first time. I was so excited and delighted that the second I hit the basket, I just climbed up out of the way and tore the basket loose. And then next thing you know, I'm consistently hitting the basket, and then I find myself, okay, keep hitting it. Now I've got the hang of hitting this basket. I've got the hang of actually making the connection. But once I make the connection, I get into formation below this tanker, and I just start to get, like that, hitting the freaking thing. And then again, it's like, you just have to force yourself to relax. I saw a video that said that a lot of times during refueling, especially on like a F-18F, a two-seater or the Hornets, I'm sorry, the Tomcats, they would say that the pilots would sometimes ask their RIOs, their radar intercept officers in the back, they'd say something like, "Sing to me." What? Yeah, just talk to me or sing to me. Just do something. Okay. And what they're doing is they're taking their head out of this exceedingly difficult thing to do. The tiniest little motion on the stick or the throttle. I mean, the tolerances are so tight. I mean, you're keeping a jet that's moving at, 300 knots, and you're keeping this thing in a box that's basically, 6, 7 feet, 10 feet maybe, and so next thing you know, it's like, okay, you're not hitting the basket hard enough or fast enough. You got to hit it hard enough to push some slack into that basket. That's what's going to buy you a little bit of time. Then just keep the speed up a little bit, ease back, get underneath. You get this freaking elevator on the Viking is right there. It's just like, it's right there. There's a little like flare dispenser or something on the very end of it, and then there's the hook, and it's like, keep the hook, about a third of the hook on the canopy bow, and then over time, next thing you know, boom, you got it. I was ready to shoot down the tanker a number of times, especially the guy who's running the thing. It's like, you got a little button for the radio. It's like, ready pre-contact, and he goes, return pre-contact. I'm in pre-contact position. Ready pre-contact. Return pre-contact. Ready pre-contact. Return pre-contact. You son of a bitch. What do you want me to do? You want me to just scrape the paint on it and get closer? Ready pre-contact. Return pre-contact. You bastard. You bastard. I'm just gonna take the master arm back to arm, and I'm just gonna let you have it, dude. Ready pre-contact, return pre-contact. Ready. So what it's basically doing is saying is you're not in position yet. I'm getting closer and closer and closer. Ready pre-contact, return pre-contact. At the beginning, this thing went on for like 15 cycles. Finally, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Ready pre-contact. If you say it one more time, this is it's not what he didn't say. Roger contact. It's something contact, and they start reeling out the basket. And then last time I tried it, there's the tanker. I call in, I get this thing nice and close, really nice and close, ready pre-contact, and out comes the basket. Get her lined up. I'm looking at the thing. I'm using my peripheral vision. I fly this thing right into the basket. First time, boom. I just go right up, take a little bit of slack, get a little bit higher. I'm right underneath the left side elevator on this Viking. And I sat there and went from 2,000 pounds to 12,000 pounds. Flying in formation took about, I want to say 6-7 minutes. Just filled up the tank. Awesome. And then finally and then we'll get off the airplanes. Who am I kidding? And finally, the air-to-air stuff. So all I knew how to do in dogfighting which I've done a ton of over the course of my advanced years. Probably got 10,000 hours in flight sims of one kind or another. So basically what I do is I get behind these guys and I just try and outturn them. And it's just what I do. It's just a death match, just practically at 90 degrees, pulling these, 5 turns, trying to outturn these things. And you can't, yes, it was a refueling basket. You cannot outrate some of these things. You can't outrate the flanker. The frickin' MiG-21 was giving me the most incredible headaches. This thing was outturning me. I just kept saying, this jet is frickin' 60 years old. How's this thing getting away from me? And to make a long story short, I kept trying to turn behind these guys. That's called a 2-circle turn. And so he's turning one way and I'm trying to turn inside his turn. So we're both making 2 circles. And what I really just like, no, you want to do 1 circle turn. So I'd go the other way and I'd catch them around on the other side. And then once I started doing that, putting the hose on those MiG-21s. The flankers, the Su-27s were easy for me. They're just bigger, easier to hit. So I got to the point where I got the 3 things I wanted to be good at. I wouldn't say I'm good at it, but I'm okay at it. One thing that was kind of fun was getting behind was a flanker. And I'm at like 350, 400 knots. The Hornet will let you get down to 90 knots. You just run out of energy. You're just a hot air balloon. And so I just got full afterburners in there, and you're cranking this turn trying to stay behind this guy. The tighter you turn, the more energy you lose to G-load and induced lift. And so it's kind of like loosen up the turn, loosen it up. He's getting further ahead of you. Yeah. Loosen it up, come off the G's. The jet's going to accelerate. Let the jet accelerate. Get it up to 300, 350. Best turn for a Hornet is 450 knots, 420, something like that. That's best, quickest around the circle turn. Build up enough energy so you can bleed it off. And I'm getting there, and I'm getting closer. It's like, do I have enough energy? Yeah, and I start pulling really hard now. And that brings me inside a circle. And I've got a solution on the guy, but my gun reticle, my aiming reticle, is below the nose of the airplane. That's how steep this thing is, So just kind of don't try to do that. Just ease off, stop the lead pursuit, get in behind the guy, take your time, relax, have a beer, and just keep just slowly gaining on this guy, slowly gaining. And then don't ever turn so tight that you're losing airspeed until you have to, if you want to yank the guy into the HUD, have enough energy in the bank to be able to pull it off. And then next, and down he goes. I'm like, all right, sweet. So anyway, that was DCS. It was enormously relaxing for me, and that was that. So we don't have any comments or any questions or anything. It's 7:11. We can't do an hour show. That's not good. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take questions from the live comment streams, both on YouTube or Twitch. Oh, Facebook questions. All right, let's do Facebook questions. Yes, sir. And then we'll see if we can open it up here. Facebook questions. Come on. I'm really looking forward to this trip, boys. I really am. Okay, got 2 questions. One of them is from Eric Blake. You can only imagine my surprise at this. So Eric Blake, peace and long life, image of Bill Whittle, live long and prosper, Eric Blake. So I'll start off with 1,000 kudos to you, Steve and Scott, for laughing at just how absurd the whole notion is that Disney would be inclined, let alone capable, of moving out of Florida. Clearly, these governors inviting them are virtue signaling, plain and simple. We did a right angle. Steve brought the right angle because of fascist Governor Ron DeSantis and his authoritarian death state. Lefties want to take Disney World out of Florida. They just want to move it. They want to move it to Puerto Rico. I thought that was rather hilarious, and so did everybody else. Now I shake my head at at all the online conservatives, including the right angle episode comment section, who are taking the whole idea seriously. Yeah, Disney, get out and don't let the door hit you, etc. I guess this kind of connects to the new will for ignorance affecting our side, leading to such things as denial of the moon landing. But even that aside, goes to show how many on our side are prone to virtue signaling of our own, doesn't it? Failing to do our due diligence because we feel good. It's really kind of a Stratosphere Lounge question, but since we're here, okay, so I was looking for the Apollo 11 thing, and once again, I find a couple of like the trailer for what we saw is there, and a couple of other things. I'm looking at the comments here, and now we're at the point where I would say 80 or 90% of the comments are all, I can't believe you could fall for this. It's all a giant boomer fantasy. Of course, we didn't go to the moon. Nobody believes we went to the moon. And I think this was last night. I just really let it get to me. I was like, I'm sitting there just with the hands over my eyes like this. And Natasha comes in and she says, "What the matter?" And I said, "Honey, I just don't know what to do. The world is just getting so stupid and so angry. It's so disturbing. It's so depressing." And when you hear the reasons, by the way, I think what got me started on this was I saw a video tease that said that Joe Rogan says, "I knew the moon landing was fake when I saw this little piece of video." I said, "Joe, are you serious?" Now, Joe's inclined to believe some stuff that I wouldn't let pass me, but Joe Rogan, and it's like, what is it that you saw? Well, the physics are different in one video than another. The one video is different than the physics in the other. What do you mean the physics are different? Well, he moves fast in one, he moves slow in the other one. What does that mean? What does that mean? And one guy kept saying, "How does that piece of crap lunar module, that flying piece of junk, possibly get into lunar orbit? Explain that to me. Explain that to me." What do you want me to explain? One guy was saying, "There's no fuel tanks on the thing." And I'm thinking, cutaway diagram will solve this issue real quick. But it's not one thing so much as it's just all of it together, and the momentum that these idiots have. It's actually, it just takes the guts out of me. It's just unbearable how absolutely certain they are about something that they know nothing about. I used to be somewhat that way, but I was never unconvincible. It's like, and so to answer your question, Eric, the thing that is the most disturbing to me is I'm seeing a lot of it on our side now, a lot of it. It's this entire thing, from the election, COVID, trans movement, all of it together is designed to make us insane. You really need to understand that. It's designed to make us insane. I think the short-term goal is to make us insane enough so that we do something violent, which will then justify them actually bringing out, tanks. But the big-term goal is to not only set us at war with each other in this country, but to make us insane, make us nuts. And it's working. We talked about it before on the Stratosphere Lounge show. Again, this is not really a Stratosphere Studios question, but it's like, if Joe Biden is standing out in the rain and Joe Biden says it's raining out, we have a lot of conservatives who will just say, "No, it isn't. No, it isn't. What do you mean it's raining?" No, it's not. It's like, I know what it is, and I feel it as much as anybody. It's like we are so brutalized and lied to and manipulated so often that anytime we hear anything, we assume it's wrong now. We just assume it. And I think some of the people a small number of people who are starting to believe that the moon landing never happened believe it never happened because the government said it did. And the government is obviously lying about everything. And I think they are lying about many things today, but it doesn't mean they were lying about things, the whole, it's like, it's just when you see it, and more than anything, when you see the one, like you got 50 different people saying that it's impossible, couldn't have happened. And every one of them has one little piece of data. I saw a 30-second or a 60-second short on YouTube said, 5 reasons we know the moon landing didn't happen. And then they brought up the sea rock. Have you guys heard this story? So we went to the moon 6 times. We have, 200-something hours. I forget what the actual number is on the moon. It's a significant amount of time on the surface. Maybe it's not 200 hours. I forget what it is, but it's significant. And thousands of pictures over the course of 6 missions. And one of the reasons that they're sure that we didn't go to the moon is because there's a rock and it's got the letter C on it. And that's proof that we didn't go, because that's clearly a marking that the prop department put there. And it slipped through the net, you see? It slipped through the net. And I'm thinking, it doesn't look like a letter C. It's curved. It's a curved crack in the rock. Or some kind of deformation. Yes, it's curved. It's not a perfect arc. And by the way, C's pretty simple, You want to show me a perfect R? No. Lord Bio says the moon is copyrighted. That's exactly what it is, a copyright notice. When I see that, I want to go look at other pictures from Apollo and say, oh, you guys got us there, man. You caught us. You caught us on the sea. The question is, I'm wondering why you didn't notice that here's the letter I, and over here you can see the letter L on this boulder, and over here you can see you're not going to see the letter A because that's actually too complex. Here's a D. You missed the D. I just show all of these pictures where I'm just going to highlight any random features. You can find patterns in front of anything. And this like outweighs 12 Saturn V launches that were seen by millions and millions of people live. I was one of them. Millions of people every launch. Nope, that doesn't matter. Joe Rogan says the physics are different, so he's convinced never happened. I really do like the argument of saying who won the Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs. Well, I have information that they didn't. I have information that says the Eagles won the Super Bowl. What do you mean? Well, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. No, they didn't. Yes, they did. And the reason I know this is because a person who was a top manager of one of the teams said that we actually won the Super Bowl. This is one of the head coaches for the Eagles, said we actually won it and that the whole thing was covered up. That doesn't mean no, it does. You don't understand. You see, you saw it on TV, and millions of other people saw the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. But I have a guy who is a high-level guy in the NFL who said it didn't happen. He said that the whole thing was a fake. So it turns out the Eagles won the Super Bowl, you sheep. But you buy the Chiefs thing because you're all sheeple. You just buy what the media tells you. So, but the truth of it is that the Eagles won, and I know this because I've got an inside source that swears that it's true. How would you feel about that? My favorite part about this is I could say I've got the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs admitting on camera that they lost the game. You still going to tell me that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl? The head coach admitted that they lost the game and that the whole thing is just a giant cover-up. The reason I like this argument is because it's like saying, well, that's kind of nuts. Millions of people watched the game. There were 100,000 people in the stadium. We saw it all happen. You're trying to tell me that all of this is outweighed by one guy saying something? Yes, it does seem a little crazy, doesn't it? It does seem a little nuts. Even if the guy is highly placed NFL official, even if the guy is the head coach of the team that won, who swears on a stack of Bibles that they actually lost and they covered it up. That guy's either lying or he's crazy. But, they just, and I could keep saying that the Eagles actually won that Super Bowl. Keep saying it. And people laugh me out of the room now. But 20 years from now, if I keep saying it 20 years from now, so that whole Super Bowl that happened in 2023 is all fake. They said that the Chiefs won, but the Eagles won that game. It's all fake. It's well known, well proven. There's all kinds of evidence for it. I mean, look at the camera angles and stuff like that. 20 years from now, you're going to start finding people who think, well, my God, I guess they did fake that. And then they'll start feeling like, oh, I've got inside information. See, I'm smarter than you are, and I've got the inside story here. So the further you get away from that Super Bowl, the more people are going to believe it. You're going to have people who were born before the Super Bowl even took place. You're going to have people who were born who don't even know what football is anymore. And they're going to start presenting this as truth, and they're going to feel like they're special. They've got special information, and that the people who actually watched it on TV and saw it happen, people who were in the stadium, are either paid government informants or just sheeple who buy whatever they're told to do. All the people in the stadium, they were all paid off, by the way. All of them. They were all told, look, this is a national security issue. The Eagles won this game, and if you don't say anything, we'll give you each $100,000. And if you say the Chiefs won, we'll kill you. And that's what we'll do. And it sounds so ridiculous when you put it that way, but that's exactly what happens. Monk and Training says in defense of Joe Rogan, he did have doubts over a decade ago, but dropped it when he realized it would just be easier to go to the moon. Yes. I really want to do this as a court case. I really do. I don't know if you've seen. It's probably the most striking example of what I've seen. You know those railway cars that haul oil or other fluids? You've seen them on the back of semi-trucks, right? They're kind of oval-shaped, extruded ovals, right? And on the railway cars, they're big, heavy thing made out of solid steel, right? So this isn't like a little tin can or a garbage can or something. This is a big honking, heavy-duty structure. And I've seen video of it. I wish I could have saved the link. I'll probably find it if I can. And they basically took a vacuum pump and started pumping air out of the inside of one of these big, enormous, huge, solid oil cars on a train. And they're not even close to half of the pressure. And all of a sudden, this enormous thing just goes, just crunches. It just crunches like that. It's like, what the hell was that? That's the atmosphere. What do you mean it's the atmosphere? It's the atmosphere. There's 10,000 pounds of air, 20,000 pounds of air over every square foot of your body right now. And the reason that thing collapsed is because for the first time, there's not air pressure in the inside that matches the outside. Oh, come on. Air can't be that strong. It is that strong. It is that strong. That's how powerful air pressure is. And you can't have the dust without a vacuum. And if you want to see what it takes to get a vacuum on this planet, show people the world's largest vacuum chamber. It's the size of a bus stop, essentially. I don't think you could get the lemon there. And it's built like it's just solid concrete and steel to get this relatively small space into complete vacuum, because there's so much weight of air above there. And the idea that you could make a soundstage that's in a vacuum, and why did we go more than once? And why did we bring a car, for God's sake? If you're gonna do this in a soundstage, why would you have a car that goes without interruption for 40 minutes, just watching the landscape? Why would you do that? Forget about how big that hangar has to be, right? Forget about how big the soundstage has to be for you to drive in a straight line for 40 minutes. Put that aside for a second. Why would you do it? Would people have missed it? Would people have said, wait a minute, hold on, there's something funny here. We're not seeing a rover on the moon. No. They're nuts. They're nuts. These people are nuts. They're nuts. They don't want to know. They don't want to know. They don't want to be convinced. They don't want to be shown the truth. They don't want to know. They are emotionally married to it. And the one comment I saw more than anything that really, really gave it away to me was one person said, it's just a boomer fantasy. And that's when I realized, no, that's the key to the whole thing. They cannot handle it. They cannot. There's some part of these people that knows. I know I had this conversation on one of these shows just a week ago, but there's some part of them that knows, even though they don't want to face it. In fact, they're desperate not to face it. But a lot of these Gen Zers and millennials have this nasty kind of thing that's in the back of their minds, like a dark shadow that follows them around. And a shadow sounds kind of like, maybe we are stupid compared to previous. No, that can't be right. No. Well, your grandfathers went to the moon. No, that can't be. Can't be right. Can't be right. It's got to be a boomer fantasy. Because if they went to the moon with slide rules and did the math in their head, and I don't know how to multiply 3 times 11, then that means I've got to be incredibly stupid compared to them. That's unacceptable. I'm the smartest guy ever because my mom told me. So clearly, the moon landing couldn't have happened because that's what drives it. That's what the emotional driver is. The moon landing could not have happened because it's not inconceivable. It's emotionally unbearable for millennials and Gen Z to realize that their grandfathers were that much smarter than them, that much tougher, that much more guts, that much more savvy. They were that much better engineers. Well, why didn't we go back? Because of people like you. Because people like you, we got bored. I think that's in that great Cadillac commercial. It's like, yeah, America is a country that is so astonishing that we got bored going to the moon. And we got bored going to the moon within 2 years, by the way. It didn't take us 20 years to go to the moon. No, we went to the moon, landed a second time, had a big scare on the third one, survived the scare, okay. And we had, a little bit of interest in the rover on Apollo 15 and 16. It's just the same rover and the same black sky and the same, where are the stars? Oh, damn it. How did we forget to put stars in the sky? What? We spent all those millions of dollars on this incredible big soundstage, and we forgot to put stars in the sky. I feel like such a knucklehead. I just feel like such a knucklehead. How did we forget to do that? I guess they've outsmarted us. These Gen Zers are too quick for us. We were hoping that nobody would notice it, that we forgot to put the stars up there, but they caught us red-handed on it. How childish do you have to be for this? How infantile do you have to be? Pretty infantile. So yes, and it's not just the left anymore. It's us. And I see it and I understand it. I completely get it. But it's tough to stand up to it because, I don't need to lose any more members but comes a point when it's like, well, what's the point of having a membership if you're not going to speak the truth, right? I mean, that's the whole point of the whole thing. Physics Hypernova says, hey, Bill, I'm a millennial, and I will forever wish I could have been around to witness the Saturn V launching and the moon landings. Much respect. Thank you very much for that. And let me say this to you, Physics Hypernova. You are going to live to see it, and the rocket you're going to see go to the moon is going to be twice the power of the Saturn V. You will see it. And when you see the moon landing, when you see your moon landing, and those people in mission control at SpaceX, those are millennials, a couple of Gen Y guys, a couple of Gen Xers, 1 or 2 boomers just standing in the corner gathering dust. But when Falcon Super Heavy took off, it blew a hole in the ground so enormous. There was so much more power than what they planned on. I thought, man, I when the thing launched, I said, there's pieces coming off the bottom of this. That's not good. Engines failing on the way up. That's not good. The thing exploded. The ground underneath the vehicle exploded, basically. Just huge hunks of rocks and stuff are thrown up into the engines. They lost 5 engines. They still made it to stage separation. It was astonishing when I found out what actually happened. So, no, it's not. It's not millennials. It's not. It's not. It's not the generation. It's not. There's nothing wrong with you guys. There's nothing missing. We're all made out of the same stuff, man. It's all humans don't change. You've got absolutely the same capability and the potential. It's just that millennials and Gen Zers have been de-educated, and it's not your fault either. You didn't ask for that. You didn't ask for participation trophies. You weren't the ones who said, "Hey, we're not going to keep score at football games." You're not the ones who said, if I have a temper tantrum at the store, I'll get a toy. That's not your job to not. It's not your job to behave yourself. It's your parents' job, right? They're the ones who screwed this up, not you. You didn't screw this up. They did, and that's just something you just have to remember. You've been coddled. You've been coddled because we could afford to. Calvin and Stockley said we've been coddled. Yes, you were coddled because we got rich enough, worked hard enough to coddle you. That's what we did, and we did it. We did it for the right reasons, and it was a horrible thing to do. It was just another example of road to hell paved with good intentions. We thought, well, these are our children. We got all this. We've got all these resources now that our parents never had, and we don't have. When I was a kid, every family had 4 or 5 kids. That was the number: 4, 5, 6 kids, somewhere around there. Now it's like you're lucky if you have one, and when you've got one kid, you don't take the same kind of chances on that. I'm not saying that parents didn't love, their kids or care about them when there were 4 of them, but my father's father had 9 and his father had 11. So, you can afford to lose a few of them. You don't get quite as hyperventilating, and you see a kid climbing a tree, your son out there climbing a tree and hanging upside down from a tree branch. You don't get quite as excited about it when you know you got 9 spares inside the house, right? It's the truth. It's the truth. But this is one of the things. Physics. Hypernovis says, just got my PhD in physics. One of the main things I had to do was reprogram my thinking to learn how to think and work independently. It was hard, but worth it. Thanks. You, sir, are going to be a large success. You'd be a large success in 1966, not just a big success compared to the rest of the pool. To have the realization that you had to reprogram your thinking, that's A class. That's A class intellect. And for you to do it in the environment that you did it is even harder. So you get even more points for that. Anybody can be successful when you're surrounded by successful people who are well educated. For you to basically crack open this egg on your own and just start flapping your wings and without any instruction or any help, it's astonishingly cool to me. Very impressive. Very impressive. Now, I'm going to be. I'm going to wrap it. I got one more question here. Now the thing is toughening up a little bit physically. I'm not talking about physical fitness, although there is that. I saw some pictures from the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, and virtually everybody on that flight deck looked fat to me. That scares me to death. That scares me to death. The thing about it is you've been. I'm speaking in great big generalizations. Your parents protected you and hovered over you because they loved you and they wanted to protect you. And like I said, when you have only child syndrome has always been kind of like this. My wife is an only child, and it's not that she was coddled so much as she just doesn't have the experience of constantly fighting with the 3 other people you share the house with all the time, and making deals and stuff. Marusha Dark, and this is exactly right, says the fattest man in 1890 was about the size of the average Walmart shopper. Now, that's absolutely right. You look at the circus fat guys from 100 years ago, they look like, could use a little gym time, but certainly not the worst I've seen. But here's the thing about toughening up, and I'll just I'll just say this, said it before, I'll just say it one more time. You need to get outside and do things where you can get hurt. Wow, sign me up, huh? It's the truth. You need to get hurt. And the reason you need to get hurt is because you need to have the physical experience. My buddy's never named me Skid Mark, by the way, Road Rider 58. It's not, my call sign is not Skid Mark, it's Skid. They decided that Skid Mark was a possibility, but they said, no, the guy actually stayed on the bike and seems pretty cool, so it's Skid. It's not short for Skid Mark, Skid. That's my call sign. Thank you. Anyway, the reason you need to get hurt is because you realize that when you get hurt, that there is something after getting hurt, which is stop hurting. We're talking about this. No worries, buddy. Just saying. We're talking about this a couple of days ago. Getting the wind knocked out of you. Getting the wind knocked out of you is alarming. You're on the ground, you can't breathe. There is no chance, zero chance of anything serious happening to you. 10 minutes after you get the wind knocked out of you, you're doing just fine. But for those 10 minutes, you're scared out of your wits. Out of your wits. And then, next time it happens, you're not so scared. I remember flying through really bad turbulence in a really small airplane. I was just really getting banged around. I mean, lightly loaded wing was really, really getting banged around. And it's scary, it's scary. And you just have to say to yourself, planes don't fall apart. They'll stall before they disassemble. And you can do this. And after you've been through that, the next time you get into turbulence, it's like, okay, I've been through this and I've gotten through this before. The guy who wrote The Little Prince, a French pilot, something D'Aubry to something or other, he was actually a very prominent aviator, and he has a quote about something where he says, next time you find yourself in a tough situation and you don't think you can do it, just remember that other people have done it and gotten through it too. And so getting hurt is important. You need to get hurt. Marisha says, my life's been filled with suffering. Jury's still out as to whether it made me stronger or weaker. I'm going to go with stronger on this one. Colonel Angus says, I was always afraid on deck during flight ops and was terrified at night. Well, I'll tell you something, Colonel. If there's a place to be terrified, that's not fear. That's just plain common sense. The deck, St. Explorer, thank you. The deck of an aircraft carrier is the most dangerous place in the world. And if you were on that deck working, then you are a steely-eyed missile man, sir. You are a steely-eyed missile man. And you have nothing to apologize for. It's a scary situation. You're 20 feet away from these massive jets coming in at 140 knots, and these cables are arresting, tens of thousands of pounds of airplane, and if they snap, or even when they rewind them, they just take your legs off. So I'll tell you what, man, it is very impressive to me that you were on that deck. Very impressive. But just things like the worst thing that's ever happened to me in terms of just real pain was the 6-7 hours with the kidney stone. That hurt like I could not imagine things could hurt that bad. And when it was hurting badly. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It hurt so much for so long that I could not remember for the life of me what it was like not to hurt, and I could not imagine what it would be like to not hurt in the future. It was a universe of pain, and it lasted for about 5-6 hours. And because I live in Western society in the 21st century, this could have been alleviated in 10 minutes instead of 5.5 hours. It took 5.5 hours for a doctor to come, and then they had to go upstairs and unlock the narcotics because they used to be available and a doctor just give you a shot, but all the dope fiends were breaking into hospitals, so they had to go upstairs and lock it. That meant they had to get the doctor and all the rest of 5 hours of this pain, and then gone. But now I've been through that, so next time I hurt, it's like, Okay, well, it hurts, but there will be another side to the hurting, and the physical pain is nothing compared to the emotional pain. Uh, that is something also, this is just terminal loneliness for most of your life, and doing all these insane things for insane reasons, and you don't even realize how destructive that kind of loneliness is until you suddenly not get that lonely. But with like clinical depression, you just feel this storm coming. It's like this pit, and you're falling, and you're falling, and you kind of want to stop, and you also kind of don't want to stop. It's like, I just get it over with. I'll just hit the bottom, and that'll be the end of that. I won't have to be going through this all the time. And you just think, my God, the world is caving in on me, and there's no way out of this, and you can't see the hole you're in when you're in the hole. And the only solution to that, if you've got that kind of affliction, as I do, there's nothing you can do to stop that process. At least not that I'm aware of, although medication helps a lot. But the one thing you can do when you're going into that hole, it doesn't help the pain, but it's important. You can tell yourself that there is another side. You will come out of this. There is another side to this. You just have to ride it out. You just have to ride it out. And the only comfort that I can give you is not going to help your pain at the moment. You're just going to hurt. You're going to hurt for 3 days. But at the end of 3 days, it will get better. And so you just hold on to that, Just hold on to that. It's going to get better. It always has gotten better. You will get better. It's going to be a rough 2 days, so let it be a rough 2 days. Just let it be a rough 2 days, You don't have any choice. You might as well ride with it. Natasha's very good at this with me, because when I don't get sick very often at all. I get tired quite a lot. I just burned out. And sometimes I'll just get home and I'll just be so exhausted, and I'll just do something. She came up with the term. I love it. She says, sometimes I camel sleep, like camel sleep. Like, I'm so tired, I'll sleep for 15 hours, and I'll be like, I got to get going. I got so much to do. It's like, Bill, you're tired. It's okay. It's all right to be tired. You're tired. You're not lazy. You're just tired. Just relax. Just sleep as much as you need to. Okay, super. How about that? So anyway, the SEALs, I think it was the Navy SEALs, pain is weakness leaving your body. It's exactly what it is. And I'm not afraid of pain anymore. I'm really not. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't go searching for it, but I'm not afraid of it. If somebody said to me, Bill, you've really offended your members, and in order to make up for this, we're going to take your pinky. We're just going to take it right at this joint here. Here's the knife. And then that's what it's going to take. I would say, any way around this? Then let's get it over with. Do it right now. Just do it. Do it now. I don't want to think about it. Do it. And then, boom. Okay. Then it's done. Get it over with. I don't want to wait. I don't want to think about it. Don't want to make it worse than it is. I don't want to build it up. Don't want to put power in it. You got to cut one of these fingers off. You got the knife ready? All right. Do it now. Now. If it's got to be done. If it doesn't have to be done, that's a whole different story. But if it's got to be done, do it now. And the reason is, the longer you wait, the more afraid you're going to be, the more you're going to suffer. Get it over with. Done. Now it's going to hurt like well, I've never had a finger cut off, but it's going to hurt a lot. But you start healing the second after it's over. This is why when you have to take a pet to the vet for that last time, or have one come over, there's nothing in my life, there's been nothing worse than that. Nothing worse than having to do that. And what I find every time is that the trip there is much worse than the trip back. Much worse. Eric Blake says, do it on video and your member count skyrockets. All right, that's a deal. I can use it. Look, I don't use this very much anyway. You have a knuckle for 5,000 members? You can have a knuckle. It's the anticipation that's the real torture. And you know, I've never been in combat, and I'm grateful that I've never been in combat, but I'm also disappointed in myself that I didn't experience that when other people did on my behalf. But I've read enough history to know that everybody throughout time, as far as people been using, you know, sharp rocks and pointy sticks, it's not the fighting that's terrifying. It's the waiting for the fighting that's terrifying. Once you start fighting, you're in the moment. It's like, okay, get it over with. Get it over with. Bill, you're not Yakuza. Okay, I want to be a Yakuza. I want to be a Yakuza. So anyway, that's it. So what were people offended by, Bill? I don't know. Butterflies only last until the first hit. Yes. Then now it's just a job. Let's get it done. This is what I'm trying to say about Gen Zers and millennials as a general rule. 2 of the 3 guys that I'm going to be out the car with in 3 days from now, were with me when we were riding our bikes. Told the story 200 times. Basically, just we were talking about how awesome our bikes were, and I was pointing to the red paint on the bottom of the fork of my 10-speed bike, and I put my foot into the spokes of the wheel by accident. My foot went all the way around, hit the fork, that locked up the front wheel. I went straight over, bike came on top of me, and then my friend Steve Stipp did a ramp jump on my bike over me. So I'm on the ground, hit the concrete, bike is on top of me, Steve runs over me, basically. And then, you know, got up. First thing was, is bike okay? Because we got a way to go. Turns out the bike's fine, yeah. Bleeding out of the, stings a bit. As long as the bike's okay, that's the main thing, right? Because if the bike's broken, I'm boned. We're not going to the youth fair. We're not going to Dade County Youth Fair with a broken bike. So is the bike okay? Yes. And not having that experience it's not fair. It's not fair to you guys that you didn't have to go through that. It's not fair. So wow, thank you. That's a very amazing thing to say, Chris Ilasar. To be afraid and not care that you are afraid is the courage of which astronauts are made. That's a very sweet thing to say, and that is that's something to think of. Yeah. Do you want to go through this? I don't. No, I really don't. No. You don't want to have you sure you don't want to do the kidney stone? Quite sure. Well, you're going to get one. You're going to get one in the next year. Then I want it now. Right? If you're telling me I got to go through another 6 hours like that, let me just make sure my wife's okay, and I'll maybe just get a quick bite to eat, and then, you know what? Screw that. Just do it now. Okay? I just do it now. The quicker we start it, the quicker we get it done. And then you get to the other side of it. Okay. Let's see. We do have one more question here from Jeff Jazer McFarland, the coolest name in the world. Jazer. What a fantastic name. I'm going to have to name one of those astronauts Jazer. Jazer Jonah Jameson, I guess. Hello, Bill. Let's talk about soundtrack ideas for the colonies. Okay. What did you have in mind for search for each arc in the show and a theme song for your opening? I personally love chill step dubstep with no conventional instruments. Seven Lions is a launch point for the type of music I'm thinking. I've never heard of them. I'm thinking Blue Man Group, and the Interstellar soundtrack is extremely vague direction. Your thoughts? I can't believe you said Blue Man Group. I can't believe that. When I was writing the Aurora script back in 2007, something like that, I have this scene where they're on a shuttle on top of a carrier airplane, which is how you're supposed to do it. And there's a scene where the carrier just drops away and this thing just goes, does a burn into orbit. And the music I wanted to use for that is going to make people just, throw up their hands and start to vomit. I was actually thinking I want to use I Feel Love, the Donna Summer song by Blue Man Group. Because it's got that really bizarre, hollow sound that Blue Man Group does, but the energy of the piece, and it just goes up, 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 up. It's just stronger and stronger and stronger. And that to me felt like Ascension. There's a song that I saw on a video for a Hornet cruise video, real life Hornet Squadron cruise video, and they used a song called Zero from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And I thought that was fantastic because it's got that kind of, it's just building. I think when you get a chance, when this is over, which is now, go to YouTube and search for the opening of Jane's USAF. It's a flight sim from back in the 90s, I want to say. That music, especially with the sound effects, that's I played that for somebody once, and they said that's the most Bill Whittle thing I've ever heard. And I thought, yeah, that's it. There's actually, I've got the track. It's called March to Glory, but the theme from Jane's USAF, that opening theme is just, and the video, it's just killer. It's fantastic. All right, I gotta wrap it up. Gotta go, man. Go, man, go. So, yeah, that'll do it. This show, as you probably know, is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com who keep these lights on, and for whom we are eternally grateful. Never, ever stop thinking about that. I think about it every day. So thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for being with us. I will not be here Thursday for Stratosphere Lounge, and I won't be here next Monday for Stratosphere Studio, but I will be sending in updates. And I'll tell you one thing, we are going to have ourselves a gay old time. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have ourselves we'll have a gay old time. Just like Fred Flintstone and the rest of the gang. So until then, we will see you. Take care of yourselves, and don't let these bastards get you down, because there's a lot of bastards in there doing their very best, but, screw them if they can't take a joke. That's what I have to say about it.